First, I want to apologize. There's some construction going on around me. You may hear some knocking and banging, but we're going to move forward and tell our story. The Miami Port Morris Community Land Stewards was established in 2015, incorporated, bred and born out of the environmental justice needs of the South Bronx, Mott Haven and Port Morris specifically. We identified, land as being like the precursor for why a lot of harm happened to our community, from environmental justice issues that created high rates of asthma, obesity, diabetes, lack of green space, lack of real quality of life enhancements that our community desperately needed. Being in one of the poorest congressional districts in the United States, we hadn't been really receiving the answers we've been striving for. So we looked at the CLT tool as an opportunity to take land off the real estate speculative market to create some of the needs we desired. We saw how not only were people being forced out or priced out of our community because of real estate speculation and extreme development happening along our peninsula, we saw community-based organizations being placed out as well, being pushed out. As you see in this slide, we did a great deal of community visioning to determine some of our assets in our community to locate spaces and places that we as community members can hold ownership in, to remove from the speculative market, to create some of our quality life and needed necessities to have a continued healthier outcomes in our community. So we're looking at spaces. One building, a building called the Lincoln Recovery Center, a building with historical significance dating back to the 70s, where the Young Lords and the Black Panthers actually took this building off. They through a takeover of the old Lincoln Hospital. They created an acupuncture clinic here for recovery and then needed recovery and recovery in cocaine and heroin addiction. So they created this holistic approach to recovery in this facility that's about 27,000 square feet. It's been sitting vacant since 2011. We looked at, through our visioning with our community, determined what could be best used for this project or this property to build in sustainability. In that, we created this health education and the arts center because of the health disparities. Also because education is something we need to provide for our children, because we have one of the poorest performing school districts in the city. And of course, the arts being the birthplace, contributing to two music genres, hip hop and salsa, right out of the South Bronx, right out of Mott Haven. There was not a real place where our people could actually dive deep into that. So we want to make sure that we were able to create this health education in the arts center, which we call HEARTS. And then through asset mapping, we also identified the need for green space. We have some of the least quantity of green space per capita in the entire city, in this community, encircled by one of the largest significant maritime industrial areas with no access to the peninsula that surrounds our city, our community. For about 60,000 residents have no access to the peninsula. So through asset mapping, we also identified underutilized publicly owned spaces. Just like the Heart Center, the Lincoln Recovery Center was publicly owned, but not really being used to the benefit of the community, which is shouldering a great deal of the city's burden for waste, for fossil power plants, peaker stations, and heavy diesel truck intensive businesses, and also we're encircled by highways. So instead of expecting to come from the top down, we thought we create our change from the ground up. And we use this community land trust model as a way of stewarding the land and also creating a way to move forward with healthier outcomes. So in 2014, we had our waterfront plan prioritized as a state priority project. And now we're working to activate this waterfront plan to create this green space for recreational purposes, but also for climate change and flood mitigation. So we're building out resiliency from the ground up with using the community land trust model as a way in which we will do that. Our first focus is not housing like most CLTs, but it is for some of the dire needs for sustainability, for how we continue to stay in this community healthier and create healthier outcomes. And so the Hearts Center is one measure we're putting forth. The Green space and the waterfront plan is the second. And the last is civic engagement. Right now, we're launching a huge community-based civic engagement um, project where we're actually getting our folks more educated about the voting process and why it's important to vote, especially right now in the primaries that are coming up in June. Where that will help us facilitate the needs and the change that we desire, from acquiring the Heart Center to creating the waterfront access that will create healthier lives and our sustainability as a community. Thank you all for having me.